Hello and welcome to World of Tanks with Trapsikis. We're looking at Alchemist Warrior playing the KV-1S today. The game isn't the best you'll ever see. It's more about the topic that he introduced by titling his replay OP KV-1S, obviously implying the KV-1S is overpowered. So that's something I had a very interesting discussion with one of my good friends, Shadow Rabbit, recently, where if you call every tank overpowered, then by definition all of them are not. If you look at the stats of the KV-1S, Alchemist Warrior is choosing to use the fast firing gun, relatively fast obviously, with a reload of about 5 base, whereas the other option is to use the monstrous derp gun with an average damage of 450 and penetration of 61. The derp gun being my preference because simply the amount of damage you can put out is staggering. It's a very good gun, but obviously, as usually happens with derp guns, you have a very bad accuracy of 0.56, although the aim time of 2.78 does some kind of compensate for that. Right, so far Alchemist Warrior has shown us a very interesting thing here. So far, unfortunately, he hasn't done any damage, but you'll notice that he doesn't use auto-aim, which is a mistake a lot of people do make. The mistake obviously being to use too much auto-aim. He's not auto-aiming at all, which is a great way to learn where to aim for tanks, or how to get to hit points. That one obviously hitting the upper plate of the KV-1 angled in such a way that there was no chance for penetration. So if you're a new player, if you're still learning the game, I would firmly recommend switching off auto-aim or not using auto-aim unless it's extremely necessary, where you've got a hectic situation, you have to consider 3 different tanks running around you, etc. But when at all possible, don't use auto-aim. Learn how to aim manually. Teach yourself where to aim on the tank so that you can get used to aiming for weak spots, and so doing ensure that more of your shots actually penetrate. Right, so quite a bit of action there, and Alchemist Warrior has lost most of his modules. Fortunately none of his crew though. And you'll see he does a clever thing here. He shoots at the higher tier medium, the 85M, underneath the train. But the 85M is so close to the train that he can't get his gun down underneath the line in order to shoot back. And then Alchemist Warrior is very lucky there to get an ammo rack. I would have personally thought he was shooting a little bit low for that, but obviously the results speak for themselves. That was his 3rd kill, and now he does some damage to the Sture Mill. Unfortunately, the last shot misses, but a friendly 85M takes him out. So there are enemies on cap, but there's quite a bit of time remaining, so there's no reason to stress about it. Obviously you have to do something about it, but you don't have to panic. And then wisely Alchemist Warrior decides not to rush straight at them, but takes a roundabout route so that he can use cover and approach them safely in order to reset the cap. You'll notice also that Alchemist Warrior here is a bottom tier. In a tier 7 match he's a tier 5 heavy. So to be able to do what he's done so far is already quite impressive. And then you notice the Churchill 1 is shooting the beginner gun, which doesn't have a lot of penetration and it doesn't have a very high alpha. So that is something you have to take cognizance of when you get shot by enemies. The damage information is useful, so that you know what gun they're using, which gives you clues as to how long their reload is, how good their penetration is, and what kind of alpha you can expect, obviously. Right, so only 2 enemies remaining, a tier 5 heavy and a tier 7 heavy, but the Tiger P has relatively good frontal armor. It does have some massive weak spots, but if you're facing lower tiered opponents, the frontal armor of the Tiger B can be very adequate. And they're both still on relatively good health, but the friendly tiger is rushing in and does some damage to the enemy tiger P. Right, so back to the topic at hand. Overpowered tanks. If you have a look at the DPM of the KV-1S, it's not the highest, but it is on the higher end of the DPM spectrum for tier 5 heavies. Penetration is pretty average, 119, best being 157, worst being with the derp guns 60s, but the KV with only 86 mil. I believe that's a premium tank, so that shouldn't really be in this comparison. So 119 being pretty much the lowest penetration. Then you look at the aim time of 2.4, which is again on the higher end, but not too bad. 0.40 accuracy, rather bad for a gun. You can't really do sniping. And the specific power of 13.62, again relatively good for a tier 5 heavy, with the best being 16.4 on the T1 heavy. So in no way is this tank overpowered. If you look at the armor as well, 82 mil all round on the turret is some of the worst you can get at tier 5 heavies, and hull armor 75 front, 60 sides and rear, again some of the worst you can get at tier. So it does have the disadvantage of poor armor, but it doesn't have the advantage of a great gun or anything like that. So I believe calling the KV-1S overpowered is very inaccurate. I'd rather say this was quite a lucky game, or you did very well in this game, but the tank in and of itself is very well balanced in my opinion. Right, let's have a look at the post-game stats. The ace tanker there and the bruiser, demolition expert for the ammo rack on the 85M. He got duelist for eliminating 2 enemies that damaged him, fighter for getting 4 kills, fire for effect obviously, and then brothers in arms for the dynamic platoon that formed right at the end of the battle. If you look at the team details, you will see that he finished on top of experience, almost on top of damage for his team. 1489 is very adequate for a tier 5 heavy. And then on the personal details, you'll see he made a profit of nearly 15,000 credits, and with his first victory for the day bonus, 2,154 experience. Very nicely done. You will see, due to the manual aiming, only 16 of his 21 shots hit, and only 10 of the 16 hits actually penetrated. So if you're a new player that's starting to use this advice that I've just given you to use manual aim, you will miss more shots initially. You will have to learn. So it's a penalty you pay, but rather pay it now and learn how to shoot and where to aim than getting into the higher tiers and then having to use premium rounds for every shot, or having to learn while at the higher tiers already. Thank you very much for uploading this replay, Alchemist Warrior, and thank you for watching.